One theory about why today's dominant internet giants have struggled to get a grip on unsavory parts of their networks, such as terrorist material, fake news and explicit pictures, is that it is simply not in their interest. For Facebook and Google, finding the right way to censor online content, the line between extremist propaganda and newsworthy images, or between deliberately fake news and a merely misleading story, is harder than just not doing much about it, especially when their massive size means they have to rely more on technology instead of humans to police their sites. Facebook photo Bloomberg overzealous algorithms that block legitimate posts and links, irritating users, represent more of a danger than over-tolerant ones that allow illegal or unpleasant content. Besides, that content is never created by Google or Facebook, they are merely conduits for it. Above all, there have been few financial consequences either to advertising revenues or in the form of legal penalties for failures. To employees of these companies, the idea that they are not concerned about online safety because it is not financially important is a cynical viewpoint. Silicon Valley is supposed to be in the business of making the world a better place, after all. Facebook and Google, and these two are rightly singled out because of their enormous scale, employ thousands of people dedicated to making their websites and online properties safe. And yet cases regularly crop up demonstrating their failures. One example came last week, when it emerged that Facebook allowed advertisers to specifically target racists. Investigative website ProPublica, posing as an advertiser, found it took just a few dollars to direct adverts into the newsfeeds of 2,300 users associated with the topic Jew hater, as well as other unpleasant categories. Google Photo supplied allowing this was not deliberate on the part of Facebook, but merely a consequence of the automatically generated and poorly supervised advertising options created by its algorithms. Google created similar options, letting advertisers target messages at people who entered racist search terms. The response from the companies, when asked about it, was a well-worn one. The offending advertising options were deleted. The companies admitted that allowing them in the first place had been unacceptable, and there was a vague promise to do better in future. When you ask the companies about these issues, they will insist that progress is being made. Dozens of initiatives have been launched in the last year alone to deal with abuse of their websites. But time may be running out. While politicians have been reluctant to directly regulate Facebook and Google, pointing to legitimate freedom of speech concerns, their duopoly over digital advertising, a small but increasingly dominant part of all advertising, is attracting increased attention. This month Facebook disclosed that fake advertisers with ties to Russia that wanted to meddle in U.S. politics had been allowed to spend $100,000 buying 3,000 adverts, potentially reaching millions. The matter is now being looked at by U.S. politicians, amid growing concern about Facebook's impact on public discourse, and the company has handed details about the adverts over to investigators. In the UK, the Information Commissioner's Office is investigating whether political parties have broken the law by directing highly targeted adverts online in an attempt to sway their vote in this year's election. Political adverts on television are banned elsewhere; they are limited by local spending rules. On the internet, local boundaries are more flexible, making rules difficult to enforce. Some politicians are now directly calling for online advertising networks to be controlled. A number of U.S. senators have called for Facebook's advertising to be regulated. Like on television, other commentators have called for the company to at least be more transparent about how its highly guarded marketing algorithms work. If Facebook and Google have been cautious about policing the content on their websites because there is little incentive to do so, advertising is a different matter. Ads make up 90% of Google's sales and 98% of Facebook's. And previous threats to advertising revenues have appeared to elicit a quicker and more effective response than other concerns. Earlier this year, dozens of advertisers including Marks Spencer, Nigel Banks and the government withdrew adverts from YouTube, the Google-owned video website, after it emerged that they had appeared in front of extremist videos. Google's response was swift. It refunded advertisers, banned certain types of videos from carrying adverts, and gave companies better controls over where their ads appear. Facebook, in response to concerns about Russian meddling, introduced new steps last week to verify advertisers, a move meant to deter trolls and bots. One could argue that in both cases the response was much more effective than at other times that did not pertain to the company's lucrative advertising networks. Call it cynical, but governments have repeatedly expressed concerns about how Facebook and Google manage themselves. They may well decide that the best incentive is to hit them where it hurts. Telegraph, London.